Hello, everybody, and welcome to This Week in X, presented by Crushing Comics. I'm your host, Crisis with a K, and I'm here with my friends from around the world. For me, Fariha, Harry, and Tyler. And it's time for a celebration for us because, folks, we've got an issue of X Factor today, which traditionally this panel really enjoys. It is X Factor issue number 9, and it was out on the 12th of May, 2021. And every issue, X Factor or not, comes with a warning, which is that we're going to get into some spoiler territory. We're here to talk about the issue, you know that. But we might talk about these characters' histories and the history of the X-Men and other things happening in the X titles right now as well. And you have been warned. For X Factor number 9, we're going to do a lightning round. There's so much in this book. Please resist trying to react to all of its plot elements. Just tell me how it made you feel, starting with Tyler.
There are many nuggets of brilliance in this very packed issue. However, it is not as good as some of the best issues in this run. Parts of it felt rushed. Parts of it was kind of confusing. The art and colors, though, remains top-notch. And even the less successful issue of X Factor, I think, still deserves a 4 hot pants out of 5.
Okay. Harry.
This book is rushed. There's no getting around that. But that said, one of the things I love so much about this book, month to month to month, is its ability to still get so much into one issue. So it's the book that somehow can do a quicker than usual ending the best to me. I was not as bothered by the pace as I've seen other people around. And I think a lot of these beats were hit really well. I think this is actually a fairly great issue of X Factor. I think there have been other issues that were a little bit more just focused on action, a little bit more slight. I think you have tons of jokes, tons of emotional moments, these sweet little slice of life bits in the middle of like the psychic plane. There's a part near the end where just Baldion's just flexing the hardest he ever has, just with the layouts and different kind of art styles. No, I really like this. I'm going to give it 4.25 mosaics out of 5.
Fariha.
So even as a biggest fan of X Factor, and then I was like very, always like cheering on for it, I was really disappointed by this issue because of how much that got entered and put on top of it. And then, but the thing is, and one thing we talked about it before is like how this is not new reader friendly. Like if I didn't know who Shatterstar and who Richter and his connection to Richter was, this would have been like, I would have reacted very negatively. But because I know that, I'm like, okay, it makes sense. But then it came out of nowhere. It was just thrown in there. We have not talked about Mojoverse since that first issues. And it just kind of it's like rushed. And then because this is the second to last issue, it just getting all wrapped up. And I thought that we were going somewhere very interesting and it just kind of ended. But our first half of it, I was really into it. But the second, I wasn't. So for me, it was 3. It hurts to say that, but it's a 3 out of 5.
Well, I think reacting to the issue is kind of inseparable from now knowing that the next issue is going to be the last issue, even if you don't follow on social media. They say it in the goodbye box on the final page, and clearly it's moving through a lot of plot. I would agree that it's not new reader friendly, but I think that this book has always been a little bit on the inside track for X-Men, even if it does invite you in. And I think I really enjoyed it. I wish a lot of these moments had more time to blossom because I think they were really good moments, but it had so much, even in the tiniest, quickest panels, it had so much encoded in it about these characters that it really still rung true for me. And I can't help but react to it as anything other than this, deeply, deeply well-read X-Men fan. And for me, it really worked. I absolutely understand that for some people, they're going to get lost halfway through. But as somebody who loves X-Men and who really likes this particular set of characters, even the guest appearing ones, it just nailed it for me. And it was very, very satisfying. And ultimately, I like a dense book. Like if every book moved this fast and took as little prisoners as this book did, I'd be pretty damn happy. So it's really hard to go wrong with me with an issue that's this packed and has this many nods to character moments. If we all recall, when we left off in the last issue, they had finally kind of put the whammy on Siren as Morrigan, as she was kind of inhabiting their boneyard and using it for her own nefarious purposes. And that's where we pick up here in what I like to call the psychic Inception face-off. Because spoilers for a movie that you may or may not have seen, Inception, there's multiple layers happening here, right? So Polaris is kind of on the top layer, and she's holding off the physical Morrigan. Then Rachel takes them into the middle layer, which is Siren's psyche. But if they want to go deeper into the Morrigan level of the psyche, they're going to have to leave Rachel behind on the middle layer. And it's just very, very clever. And it's, you know, it's clearly almost like a trope at this point, but it's really, really clever. And I think it really uses each of them well, personally. But there's a lot of individual things that happen here. There's iBoy seeing, you know, a history of magical stuff happening. There's Rachel bringing in Kyle to talk about dinner plans. It's not just a psychic mission. It's got a lot of interpersonal stuff thrown in as well. So Tyler, what did you think about this first psychic Inception sequence?
I mean, the only thing that we are missing right here is the spinning top at the end, just to make sure that they all came out of it correctly. I mean, I loved it. There's so many layers here. And the first thing is the coloring. I love how the fact that everyone is in shades of red, except for Rachel, because she's the only one that is like in control here in a sense, because
almost being like projected through Rachel.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So they're all going through her and things like that. And then Prodigy was like, "Oh, we form a mutant circuit. Did you not know that?" And that is kind of like, well, not quite. It is some sort of a circuit, but not quite. But you know, but this is like this has been a common theme throughout a lot of the Rock's titles, right? Is about forming small mutant circuits to make the whole much more than the sum of its parts. I mean, the sum of its parts much more than, you know, the individual parts. Then you know, I mean, and they finally gave a name for the first party, the Founders Party, which I kind of thought was really funny as well.
Good name.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. And the part that sort of makes me go, was when Rachel basically said, "I'm not going to be the middle person." Pull Carl into the middle of the mission and say, "Okay, you two start talking," and how Northstar basically, you know, at the end of it just zoomed down and gave Carl a peck on the cheek. And you know, I mean, I thought that was like so well done. There's like a lot of things here too, like, you know, the team is becoming a family, because Northstar is very, very protective of the younger members of his team. I think he has reason to be protective, given the way the last issue's data page goes. Is like, and then the other thing also I think is that the teams are getting very familiar with each other. They are making fun of each other. They are calling each other, you know, they're saying like, "No, don't do it. I'm all eyes." And yeah, I mean, and then of course, you know, Prodigy making fun of Darker, and it's like, "Oh, Mr. Snake, sir." So I thought there was like so many layers of like good stuff here, like good nuggets. It's like, you know, is I would be happy if this is just the entire issue.
Yeah.
Just this first part. I would be so happy. But, you know, but this is just 1/3 of the issue. This is good.
Harry?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but like, I feel like some of the best stories, some of my favorite stories just have casts of characters that just make you just love them and are just so happy to see them all interact. It's been on our minds, it seems, a little while, but like, you know, Buffy the Vampire Slayer is incredible at that. And like this book, just starting off just with the banter and the back and forth and just seeing them kind of bond throughout the series. And Tara, you said it, but it's my favorite moment in the book where you go, "I'm all ears," and then iBoy goes, "I'm all eyes," and they all just like groan at that. It's one of the most delightful moments. And then you have Rachel like turning and looking between the planes, and it's just being shown through different panels, and she's in between them. And it's like just this art showcase and this amazing character just showcase. And it's just, and then the stuff with North Star and his husband, like, it's just so freaking great and sweet and just like emotionally just like uplifting that I was just in. I was totally locked in. Like, this is why this is my favorite Marvel book. This is why I want to get an oversized hardcover of this book. I hope they actually do that. It's like on the edge of how many issues, I don't know. But yeah, it's just, it worked for me in every single way.
Fariha, what did you think about this opening sequence?
So I got my pitchfork out because of like how awesome this first half of the book was and how it got all truncated because we know that the series is canceled or coming to an end, however way you want to say it. And it's all because of that they had to put everything in this issue. And I know for a fact if this series was allowed to continue, it would have ended with the riddle. Like, you know, they would not have solved the riddle in this issue. And we would have been talking about, who do you think? And Tyler would be like, well, I think it's Shatterstar. Sorry, bad impression of Tyler. Like, you know, Tyler would have solved it. But the thing is, in here, it got done right away. Everything that you were saying about, like, the characters interacting with it, it's all really good. But then the cynic in me, the pessimist in me is just thinking, well, to what end? Because it just ended. This team is getting disbanded. It's not, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, you know, and it's just like, I'm like, it hurt. It hurt to enjoy this because it's not going to be there. And please don't tell me one of those like, oh, be glad it happened. You know what?
The friends were the friends we made along the way.
No, back off. I want it to continue. I wanted it to be like the next arc is about we're going to go and save Shatterstar. You know, something about that. You know, versus it's just going to be like, hey, if you have been reading X-Men, you're going to know who these people are. But if you're not, shit out of luck. You know, go talk to Dr. Google. That's what happened. But I mean, you know, you guys already have pointed out all the good things about it. I absolutely loved it. Like the fact that this was like an Inceptions and all of that. It was just amazing. But it just like,
maybe I'm crazy, but like this book moves at such a breakneck speed anyway, and it gets so much within each page that I wasn't feeling like I was missing out on content as the story came along. Like, you're right that like they definitely cut the riddle super fast, but that's a really, really funny moment where they're just like, who could it be? Oh, it's Shatterstar. Like, immediately they know.
I wanted it to end at that moment. I wanted the next issue to begin there. And then it was all about going to Mojoverse and then saving Shatterstar again and everything. And everything that I was talking about Richter, how he's feeling about Shatterstar, it's here, you know, because it happened. But the problem is it just happens so fast. And it's just like, because you know that it's because it's coming to an end and you know that you're going to goodbye. It just like, I was like, I don't know. I mean, you know, if like Peter suddenly said, this is the second to last episode we're going to do, I'm not going to enjoy it as much, even though I enjoy hanging out with you guys. Like, it was just that for me. It's just because I'm who I am as a person. Nothing against Leah Williams or Bell.
What you brought to the issue in a way.
Exactly.
Well, and also I think it's, you know, I follow Leah Williams on Twitter and Baldion as well. And Leah Williams mentioned in some of her replies to folks who are reacting to the fact that it's the second to last issue, that she actually found out about that in the middle of scripting this. So I feel like you almost can see where this maybe, you know, was going to do the thing Fariha is talking about. And then Leah Williams is like, nope, let's do a lot of other stuff. But I think, you know, the credit where due is that Baldion knocks so many different things out of the park in this issue. And if I'm only reacting to that beginning sequence, this is really good psychic plane stuff with Baldion in collaboration with Silva, showing the different layers, showing how some things are kind of not meant to be there and how they stand off from the rest of the art, showing them walking through this this projection of past events that are being replayed to them from the memory. It kind of made me think about if anybody has watched Hamilton, either live or on Disney Plus, how at one point, is it Eliza who goes back and replays one of the whole scenes? And it really reminded me of that. So I just think there was so much clever stuff happening with the art. A lot of issues where the plot gets rushed like this for whatever reason, whether the series got canceled or it's just got to end the arc or there's a crossover coming, any of those things. A lot of times the art just can't keep up and it kind of is just shoving things, and you get all those problems that we talk about. The 180 rule is broken, or you can't see people's eye lines or whatever. But Baldion delivers flawlessly on incredibly difficult stuff. He's got to navigate so many characters through an unreal space, and it just 100% works from an art standpoint. And I think that that's fascinating. You know, clearly there were some late changes to the script, maybe even changing some of the things that Williams and Baldian had already agreed were going to go into the script. And the art, I think, is executed flawlessly. But let's come to the riddle of the, I don't know if it's, I've always in my head said Gaius or Gaius, but I've checked the Google and it sounds like gas, but that's because Google pronounces things like a Kiwi to me now. So maybe only a Kiwi would say gas. I don't know. I'm not a linguistics professor, okay? But what it is an obligation.
Confirmed.
Yeah, that we know that for sure. It is an obligation or a prohibition magically imposed on a person. And it seems to specifically require Shatterstar. And I want to ask you all, clearly we all know that it's Shatterstar because the issue tells us, why? Do you think, Fariha, it's because he was in X Factor with Siren? Why do you think it's so specifically? Like, usually when you get one of these riddles, you kind of got to go through your Rolodex. Like, oh, he's a prince, but he's got a lazy eye. Oh, that princess is too short. Like when you're looking for the person who's going to do the magic kiss or whatever. But in this one, it's like, no, I'm actually specifically asking for Shatterstar. Fariha, what did you think about that?
I don't know, because it just got all done in one issue, and it was like a whiplash that I didn't, only because Tyler told me about Shatterstar and Longshot before that when it was happening, I was like, oh, it's gonna, and then it made so much sense why X Factor started with Mojoverse. Like it was all coming together, and then I'm like, wait, we're gonna go to Mojoverse now? Wait, I'm not ready yet. So it just felt like that. And I don't, and that's one of the reasons I wasn't even sure. It's like, okay, maybe Shatterstar had in some 1996 issue, he had something to do with Morrigan. He killed Morrigan once, and that's what we're going to bring it back. But I don't know any of that. And to me, honestly, I didn't care. I didn't care about that part at all, that it's Shatterstar. I'm like, great, Richter's going to be happy. And he was. And
we actually got to see Richter caring about Shatterstar for a change. So this does launch us into this Mojoverse caper, which really feels like something that could have got a whole issue. And instead it gets a page in a spread just because that's how much time it has. Yeah. And the caper, it's very, very funny. It's like they're infiltrating Mojo World to put on a concert to draw enough viewers to make Mojo mad enough to, I don't know, it's a pretty dense spread. Tyler, what was your version of what the caper actually was?
Okay, before I answer the question, I think, I'm not sure, why it has to be Shatterstar was not given enough room to for Leah Williams to explain. But there was this one panel where you see Shatterstar and then you see a transparent image of another fighter behind him, and Morrigan was saying something like, "Oh, you would see to him so easily." So my guess is it has to do with the whole Irish lore of Morrigan, and that guy might be, her mortal enemy or something, and for some reason, Shatterstar is a representation of that character. But yes, this is the part which was what I mentioned as confusing when I said my overview, because I didn't really get the whole thing of why it has to be Shatterstar and what is the ultimate plan. Maybe we will know next issue, which is part of Hellfire Gala, but I don't know.
One thing I want to say that I do understand why Morrigan wants to be keep them keep Morrigan came and got Siren, that made more sense.
Yeah, that part makes sense.
That was more, and that was scary. That was really scary.
Because she will gain in power as people sacrifice themselves, and so if she could make Krakoans just mass suicide, right? She will gain in a lot of power because she knows that they die, they get brought back.
Right, it's an inexhaustible resource to her. Yeah, she's like, I've struck. It's gold in them Dar Hills.
You guys did what? I'm gonna use this.
There's like two layers to it though, because there's one layer is like, okay, you conquered death, like you're not scared of me, so I'm mad at you for that, but at the same time I'm going to use it as a resource. Then what I'm saying, Siren Girl, introduce her to Quentin Quire and your problem will be solved. Like that's what I was thinking the whole time. I'm like, does no one talk to each other? Quentin would be happy to take her on.
This happens in the founders party, so
right, that's what I'm saying.
So she doesn't really know what. I mean, an X-Force is not supposed to be public knowledge.
Oh, I
everyone.
know that.
Yeah.
But I'm like, maybe Siren can go and figure that out. But anyway.
No, but this also gives Siren a hero take, right? Basically, she's like, I'm gonna make another deal. You just keep killing me because they will keep bringing me back, and and I will just pay the debt in place of them, and that is.
But it's like 1,000 deaths in 1,000 different ways.
That's so sad, though.
She doesn't really remember them, though.
Affecting thing.
It's really scary. That was really scary.
I mean, I think there's something there that almost could escape, but it really tracks to a lot of the ways that we've been talking about resurrection and the results and consequences of resurrection, is that much like Quentin Quire, Siren's almost going to be in an arrested development, because if she's constantly dying, I don't know, let's call it every third day, because Morrigan has a high price to pay, a large toll to pay. Siren's never going to advance as a person. She's basically just going to be Bill Murray in Groundhog's Day. She's going to keep waking up, having never really lived anything. The world's going to be changing around her, and she's just going to keep dying. And she's really just going to be stuck in that moment. She's basically, it's hard to explain. It's like not even like she's saying you can keep killing me and there's like a suicide element to it or a depression element to it. It's almost she's like ceding the ability to actually live her life because she's never going to have any memories anymore.
Right. Like, I mean, that's what I'm saying. That whole thing had me shook. I'm like, that needed a whole issue on its own.
Well, before we come back to more Morrigan stuff, let's take a Morrigan intermission here to talk about the data page, Tyler, because the data page of North Star texting with Danny about getting together for dinner, but he's actually looking for some advice from Danny. What did you think about North Star's advice seeking, and who on the team is he asking for that advice on the behalf of?
I mean, he's asking an advice basically for himself, I think.
Oh,
really?
Yeah.
Okay, keep going. Tell us about that.
No, because I think he wanted to know if he wanted some assurance from some people that he trusts as equals, because they were all teachers to the Academy X kids at the same time. So and he wanted some assurance that he could lie to the Quiet Council and that he's not the only one doing it.
Right. When I said on behalf of, clearly he wants the advice for himself, but I mean, who on the team in specific does he want to lie about? I phrased that poorly.
iBoy and Prodigy.
Yeah.
iBoy, like all of them.
It's definitely iBoy. Yeah, actually all of them is probably.
And Prodigy and, I mean, not so much Daken, but
because he doesn't have much.
And I mean, I don't think he
That's
thinks
the worst
of
burn.
Yeah, I don't think he thinks of Rachel as one of the young ones. I think Rachel could definitely take care of herself. So my take would be primarily Prodigy and iBoy, but in some ways I think you can also lump it as as an umbrella for the entire Academy X kids that appears in this title.
But here's my question about that too. It's like he was saying, I have to pull the video. It's like, members of my squad are more powerful than ever. The council is aware of, and now I'm terrified of misappropriation of their skills because I do not trust leadership to lead them well enough. They're probably going to look at these young people in my care and just see the ways they're developing their abilities could be weaponized. Mm-hmm. Isn't he doing the exact same thing? Isn't he weaponizing their thing to just because he's doing one aspect of finding dead mutants and then solving their crime? it's still a weaponizing. And is he not aware that Krakoa is still is a nation and in need of an army, and that's something that should be done? He's from Alpha Flight. He was in a government thing before. So I just don't understand what is he trying to do over here. Like, it's one of those things that, yeah, he's trying to protect, but I'm like, I don't think you understand what's at stake. And I feel like someone like him should know that. It just lessened him for me. Like, I was like, okay, okay. Like, you should be the one who's saying that, hey, something needs to be, like, we need to do something about it. Rather than hiding it, you are just trying to protect them, and then they may be actually taken and weaponized, and you will have no say.
Well, I have so many opinions about these things, but let's have Harry toss his hat into the ring as well, and then I can jump in on all of it.
I just think it's an extension of just North Star's becoming something of a dad, and he's trying to watch out for the youngest part of his crew, which is Eyeboy, who's a little bit of he's clearly got this incredible power, which you'd never expect, but he's still pretty young. He's wearing kind of not ill-fitting clothes, but definitely a different thing. And I just took it more as like, I didn't think less of it. Just like, this guy's taking him in a vulnerability to reach out to friends and try to see if he's on the right path. And but I've been in a wholesome mood lately, so maybe that's just my particular read on that.
Well, wow, there's just so many things here. So I think he's clearly asking about Eyeboy, but I think the implication is that he's asking about multiple. And so then if you extend it to assuming he's asking about Prodigy, it's kind of like, what is it that he doesn't want to reveal about Prodigy? Like, everybody knows that Prodigy's powers are working again, right? Because he got resurrected, and Prodigy hasn't fully confided in North Star about the whole, there's maybe a missing living Prodigy around here somewhere. So I kind of was like, is it Prodigy, right? Like, is it actually Aurora? Is it, I don't know. It made me really question, or has North Star really caught on to more about Prodigy than Prodigy maybe thinks, because North Star is being like a good parental figure. So I really just found myself really tangling with that. He's clearly talking about multiple. And then I started thinking about, who would Danny maybe not be disclosing everything to Professor X about, but that's a conversation for New Mutants.
Yeah.
But I want to come to Fariha's point about like weaponizing and who North Star is. I don't think utilization equals weaponization. I think that Xavier and the Quiet Council, but Xavier specifically, is somebody who will absolutely weaponize somebody to the greatest good of Krakoa without maybe thinking about them. And that's North Star's fear. North Star, being from Alpha Flight, he's not part of the Xavier cult at all. Like, he does not care about the Xavier stuff. He's using Eyeboy or whoever because it's helping them make people's lives better. But he kind of draws a line between like making lives better on like a retail level and making lives better on like a wholesale national level, where you maybe have less regard for everybody in the machine. And I can't help, even though he did not say it in the conversation, reflect on the fact that he's not talking to Polaris about this. Polaris's dad is on the Quiet Council in the chair next to Xavier. He's not talking to Rachel about this either. Up until a few months ago, Rachel's mom was on the Quiet Council too, like of the adults in the group. And then, Daken, even though the relationship isn't great, is the son of Wolverine, one of the captains. North Star is really the only unaffiliated adult that's here. And so much as he feels a little bit custodial about these younger characters, especially because of the Academy X connection, which is easy to forget because people haven't read early Academy X before it turns into Kyle Yost, and they also haven't read Chuck Austin X-Men because everybody says it's bad, but it's got great North Star in it. I think people are missing the extreme level of nuance of North Star being like, I'm alone here. I can't talk to Polaris. I can't talk to Daken. I can't talk to Rachel. And I see Donnie as my actual peer here more than anybody on my team. Yeah. I think that is heavy as shit, y'all. That is a heavy, heavy beat to play out for North Star.
And that's really all good. I absolutely agree with that. And I actually didn't even think about the Polaris, Magneto and all of that. But my thing is like, when X-Men, X-Men or the mutant or this older mutant who has been around as being a mutant will stop thinking like before Krakoa. Like, I just don't understand that. Like, at what point these characters is gonna change their mindset of the Professor X as the as the headmaster is not the same as the professor as a council, and taking a mutant and training them to be something betterment of the nation is not the same as like, oh, I'm going to put you in a danger room and then so you get to learn. Like it just like there is a difference. I just want
is
them
there,
to.
Is there a difference?
There is a difference, because before they were just fighting for their lives, but now they're protecting their nation. You need to, like, you know, they was like fighting for their lives as individual citizens because because there was like racist coming to kill them, but now they're a nation, and nations should have weapons to protect themselves.
Does that matter to iBoy though in the moment? Like I feel like either way he's getting killed.
Give iBoy that option. Tell him, what do you want, iBoy? What do you want to do as a mutant, as Krakoa? The same thing that Doug had to deal with in New Mutants 13 when they were in X of Swords. Like, you know, that's what I'm saying. Why I hate that when there's like all these older characters tries to hide the kids, and they're not kids, they're not underage. I think iBoy is like over 18. Why not talk to? I don't know.
That's a good question, actually.
I don't know what age he is, but the thing is, like, why aren't you telling them and they're letting them decide? By not doing this, you are just creating a situation where Quiet Council will one day come and be like, we need people to protect Krakoa, and we're gonna conscript, what's the word? Like conscript these people or conscript these people. And to be honest, some of these mofos need to be conscripted.
Well, I mean, I don't want to get into a present day political sensitive topic, which could be very easy to get into given the events of this week. But should you have to serve in the armed forces of a nation to appreciate the benefits of a nation? To make it non-political in the United States, to register for aid for college, you have to register for selective service. Usually that doesn't have any meaning, but if there was ever a draft, by virtue of having signed up for aid for college, you would be draftable. And I remember, and I think I've told this story on the podcast before, being like, I don't know if I want to apply for aid for college, and because I was like really against the idea that in exchange for even operating in the federal system to get an education, that I had to volunteer myself specifically as somebody who said, yes, you can use my body in defense of the country. Is iBoy's situation any different? I totally read the whole, like, let iBoy decide. That's its own thing. But I also read, and I want to get the other half of the chat, because now Free and I are really going at it in discussion, which is fun. iBoy's not part of the Xavier system. Like, he's like 7th or 8th generation at this point. I think there's definitely an aspect to this of like, there's kids that Xavier's aware of that he's going to treat more fairly, like a Doug. But like, is he treating everybody fairly? Does Xavier really have a relationship with Goldballs? Or is Goldballs just a commodity who's been sacrificed for the good of the state? Is Goldballs even a person? And should Goldballs have the right to be a person? If his power is crucial to the existence of mutants? These are big, big themes, and Leah Williams hasn't come out and said any of them, but like, they're there in this data page. Yeah. Let's hear from the other side. Freya, if you want to rebut any of that, but then I want to go to Harry and then to Tyler.
But that's what I'm saying, because this is the old way of thinking that Xavier is the head of the mutant dome. He's not.
He is.
He is
one of. Come on. That's what I'm saying. He's one of. As the way the system is set up, he's one of. And if he's not, then that needs to be discussed. But that's what I'm saying. And I'm not saying that do it in the normal world way, where there is like a draft system or anything like that. Come up with a way, because you are better. You were just superior. Do it better. Do it better than how humans, humans have done it. That's what I'm asking for. I'm not saying that follow the real world rules and anything. I'm just saying that do something different about it. That's what I'm saying. Because when I say that, it's like, oh, I don't trust Xavier. I'm like, haven't we done this before as well? Aren't we supposed to be better than this?
Well, he's not being very trustworthy, right?
and that's maybe a thing. So then that's the thing. Like, there is like this break there that we may need to discuss about it, and maybe that's what the whole discussion is. Like, maybe the discussion between them will stem that, hey, we as the newer leader of Mutant Dome maybe need to do something different. I hope that comes out. Harry, I want it to be something like that.
I feel like, I think Xavier is not trustworthy for actions he has taken on Krakoa. It's not so much like the old way of thinking as he's clearly operating as a leader at a remove of his people, because yes, there is a council, but also, yes, he is having a lot of secrets he's holding from everyone with Magneto. He's not entirely on the level, which raises the bigger question of, ultimately what kind of society is this going to ultimately be? Is this going to be a warlike culture that should demand service and demand people to step up to the plate? Or is it the kind of place that, wants to be, an actual Eden or a garden or a place where, where kids can be kids, like Chuck E. Cheese, So it's kind of like there are different, I think North Star's act of just like compassion and care, it's like a good beat for his character, but it's also taking the side of, I want to see these kids flourish or be protected in their own way to be able to do that. Because in this book, in this zone, X Factor is not a battle team. It is a detective company trying to make people's lives better, which is different than something that's heavily conflict based. So I think it's like pretty undeniably like heroic in that way. And I think my cat agrees. So that's all I have to say.
Let's not weaponize our pets for the conversation, okay? Because Fariha will get in on that.
I know.
Yeah, but I think she's just there. She's sitting right next to me, so I could weaponize cats too,
Hey, bring it on.
All right, Tyler, close out this part of the discussion for us. What are your feelings on this?
I grew up on an island.
And served in that island's army, let us not forget.
And that is a national service, so I'm conscripted to serve in the army. And I mean, in the defense of the country, I do think that is necessary, in the sense that people do need to know how to defend the country. On the other hand, I don't think the short amount of time that we spent in the army is sufficient, but it does give us a little bit of an idea that should something happens, should there be a need, at least we are semi-prepared. So I do think that there is a need for Krakoa to defend themselves. But given that the citizens of Krakoa, the Krakoans themselves, are by definition, do have powers that could be used as weapons. There is no need to subject everyone to that. So there should be. I mean, it all stems down to the formation of the society and having a structure to the society. Mm-hmm. So basically, there needs to be a way to defend the island, and not just and not just depend on the captains to choose their own team, like Magic did in Curse of the Man-Thing, or like they all did when they just jump into Otherworld to defend the island. So that there has to be something more to it in a way that is more structured. But back down to this, though, we are talking about North Star, who really feels like he's in charge. I mean, he did not volunteer to be the team leader. Basically, Polaris says, I don't want to be the leader. I volunteer North Star. And he takes it to heart. I mean, he lost a child before. He lost a son before, I think. Is it a son?
That he adopts back in the in the reveal of his
So that I think that definitely colored his way in some sense, that he's protective of younger people whom he sees as his kids. So I think that makes sense, and that's that gives him another layer of characterization, because he's often played as the aloof, the cool one who doesn't care too much. But here you see that he does care, and he remembers his Leo Williams remembers the relationships between the teachers during the Academy X era. So that kind of that works very well on many different layers for me. just purely on this data page itself.
Well, look, there's a lot to this issue beyond this data page. We're basically only halfway through the book, but to all of our point, it's like goes into hurry up mode after that. There's some beautiful art from Baldion as we get the myth of the Morrigan that's drawn in this awesome kind of like old painted scrolls sort of way. Yeah. Shatterstar has his encounter with the Morrigan, which is incredibly violent and wonderfully drawn. And at the end, when Morrigan is defeated, she imbues something into Shatterstar and also to Richter all the way in the Excalibur Lighthouse. What that is, we don't know. But I think the point I want to draw about all that, because we just don't have the time to dig into all of it, is X Factor and why we react to X Factor like we do is because it gives us the density where we can have these discussions. Like, I feel like we come into X Factor every time, and not only do we go wild over the art, not only do we go wild over the character interactions, but we're having like big talks about the ramifications of things in the real world and how we feel about them. And it's making us feel things. And some of the X-Men books have done that in other times. We had a great discussion about Excalibur and with Malice in the issue. There's other, we've had really in-depth discussions where we've really disagreed about Children of the Atom. But to me, that's what I'm looking for from a great comic book, a book that's not just pleasing to read, but then I get stuck on as I tumble it around in my head afterwards. And, I have to just say that, like, I'm incredibly disappointed that just because this is not meeting some excitement threshold in some part of the market, that we're going to dismantle this creative team that works well together, this group of characters that works well together, these themes that work well together, and we're going to lose the book that's the most thought-provoking book in the X-Men line. And like, I'm the moderator, so I get to editorialize, I guess. But like, that's just dumb. It's stupid. I don't really care if it's the book that sells the least in the direct market. If you have the book that's saying interesting things, find a way to make it sell. Now, who knows? Yeah. This book is going to go away. We're going to get the Trial of Magneto for 5 issues. Maybe we're going to get another volume of X Factor. Maybe it's going to turn into some other title that can maybe sell more. But are we ever going to get this magic back that's leading us to have discussions like this one? Because I think we're, once again, taking the best X-Men book and ending the magic early just because it's not appealing to the widest swath of the audience, which kind of is a little bit of an allegory about X-Men itself in its own way, and that frustrates me very much.
No, it does. I mean, the thing is, like, why do we have characters starring in 2 books that isn't even very good at this moment? Like, why? And here we have spent so much time talking about this book, and we didn't even talk about The Rescue, which features so many different characters. Some of them appears in only 1 panel or 2 panels and were used brilliantly. Like the whole magic thing.
Oh, magic is Mojo, so fun here.
It's so good. And how Danny and Cian basically combined their power and made the worst fears of Mojo basically losing his network entirely and just basically entrance him so that he couldn't react to anything that they were doing, so that he couldn't react to anything that they were trying to rescue Shatterstar. And I believe that if this wasn't ending, we will see the fight between Magic and the Clone Mother instead of just having it off panel.
Well, I don't think we have to say that any other book is bad or unworthy to say that. It's just like when you've got this much magic in a book and you're the X office where all of your books sell better than the majority of all of their comic books in the American market, like, find a way, y'all. I know that's
crazy. It's crazy that this is the second book after Fallen Angels, right? Like, this is the second to get axed. Is like, that doesn't feel right. Like, it just, I'm frustrated. Quietly.
I'm incredibly frustrated.
And I also don't know, is because they needed her to write Trial of Magneto, and she said that she cannot write 2 books. So why not just put it in pause and bring it back? Well, because the other one is clearly a mini, right? Or is that how long can you have a trial?
I don't know. It could be a mini. It has to be a mini.
Unless what trial? Because this is what my frustration is. Is like, just like the way, like the. I don't even know how to say it, but it's just like it's like we were getting something different here, like not just from X-Men point of view, not just from Mutants point of view. It was just from storytelling point of view. It was something different, and then it's gone. But and no, I am going to compare it with other books. Wolverine gets to come back. I'm sorry, it has no business coming back. It just isn't, and it's extremely frustrating. I mean, I don't know how to change that.
Yeah, and the final thing I mean, there's so much more we could talk about on all these topics. Clearly, this is one of, if not the queerest of all of the X-Men books right now. It's the book that's showing us characters on panel, in romances that are not just heterosexual romances. And it's the one that's getting cut just in time for Pride Month, which Marvel is very eager to market on massively. How about you find a way to get your queer comics through Pride Month before you cancel them? Marvel, it's not the first time. But the other thing too is I think it's shattered an illusion that I have of kind of like the way the X office works right now. Like I think it's really easy for us to all to think like everything gets its chance. Every story is going to get told to its full extent. This might be the first time in this whole age of Krakoa that we're actually seeing a story specifically not get the room that it clearly was meant to have. Yeah. And I think that at least for this group of 4, but it seems like for a lot of fans out there too, have really found something in X Factor. It really, shattered a suspension of disbelief that we're doing something different than just selling Marvel comic books and buying Marvel comic books. The anecdote that I share online, and I'll say it here too, is, I buy everything Marvel. So, and I always have ever since I came back to comics. And sometimes I feel like it's hard for me to have a vote with my dollar because I'm like, well, I'm buying everything. How can they tell that I like spending this dollar more than this other dollar? Am I supposed to buy like 10 issues? How can they show them? And so at one point I cared so much about X Factor that I canceled all of my other digital polls and I bought them manually later in the day on the day they came out because I wanted Marvel to see that my subscription dollar for X Factor was the only subscription dollar I was giving them and that all the other money was coming later because I just couldn't figure out any other way to send a message. You have people out here that if you asked us to spend like $10 per issue on X Factor, I bet we would, but doesn't matter. It's canceled. So sorry to end on downer, folks, but I think this panel is united in saying bad move, X Office.
No, it is.
I got my pitchfork out.
Quietly pissed off now, but I'm curious how the last issue is going to hit. It's weird where it's part of a crossover, but it's also leading into something. And I don't know, on one hand, like I'm excited to see Leah Williams get a bigger profile book. That is cool, but it's not going to be the same. It's not going to have this chemistry. And yeah, I just have like a really bad taste in my mouth.
And we have heard that the X Factor team is going to appear in the Trial of Magneto. It looks like some other things in the line could be relaunching. We could get this whole cast. We could get Leah Williams. We could get David Ballium, but it's not going to be this run of X Factor, even if it comes back intact for Volume 2.
Yeah,
I will say whatever, and I rarely ever do this. Whatever book David Baldion moves on to next, like I will be buying that. Like after this series, like I don't care. Whatever it could be. Well, not Song of the South. Don't draw that. But anything else.
Why? Let's not plug that out of our heads. It could be My Little Pony. It could be, yeah.
Where is
don't
he
watch
going,
that.
though? Where
I don't
is
know.
he going, though?
We're not far enough out in solicits yet.
Maybe Sword.
Well, folks.
I'd be interested.
Well,
clearly there's more we could have talked about in this issue, but we are already
got cut short just like the book did.
Much like X Factor, you just had to hurry up and say it because we're done. This has been our discussion for X Factor number 9. If you enjoyed this discussion in our righteous rage, let me tell you, we've been full of feelings across all of the X-Men books this week. So tune in elsewhere on the channel and check us out talking about the other books out on the 12th of May, 2021. The reason we get together and do this, no matter how emotional it might make us for you, is why.
X-Men is better when it's read together, especially when the book is getting canceled and you need solidarity.
That's right. So in solidarity with my colleagues here, Fariha, Harry, and Tyler, thank you so much for being part of another one of our This Week in X discussions here on Crushing Comics. And until we get to talk to you again, we hope that you are well.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.